Kyle, good to have you, man.
Good to be here, man.
Dude, this time of year, I always think, about some of those fun years you guys had, the run to the, Sweet 16. And it's such a fun time of year, dude. College basketball, there's nothing like it.
It's the best. Warm weather around the horizon. We got March Madness. NBA starting to shake up with the seeding playoffs.
Baseball's coming on.
Baseball's coming on. To be honest, I don't care that much about it, but it's just another bonus for those who do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great time of year. The best time of year.
Yeah. Well, you had a career playing for the Dallas Mavericks, for a stint. And you obviously had your career at BYU, first team all conference 3 different times. But I kind of want to get more into some of the things that people don't know about you or what they're doing. We'll talk about all that and everything, but you've got some other cool things. One thing I want to start with is you served your mission in Russia. Dude, tell me about Russia. How was that?
Dude, Russia is the land of perseverance, man.
That's a good word.
That's really where I've learned to be so people are like, how do you just stay so focused? How can you have that delayed gratification in you with what you do? It's from Russia, man. Everything's delayed gratification there. If it's freezing, you have to wait 8 months for it to be warm, right? When it's so hot, it's just up and down all the time. So there I really learned to just have that perspective and that tough mindset. It's for the tough. And if you're not tough, you won't survive.
Yeah. Well, it's like I think about Rocky IV, right? But the Russian's actually the one that's, getting all the science and the nice gyms. And then Rocky's, up in the hills and throwing tires and stuff.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I'm calling BS on that.
Yeah, right. How is it with everything going on with Russia right now? What are your feelings on all that?
It's a difficult situation. I'm still in touch with a few people, but they don't say much about it. But they're safe. Everything's good on their end as far as I know. Dude,
I've studied it quite a bit because I've really looked at this, and I think that I kind of understand Putin's point on a lot of this stuff. They always said that NATO wasn't going to add these other countries and that they were going to leave their borders alone. And then, all of a sudden they just kept adding more, and they kept basically the U.S. and the other countries that were a part of that deal kept going back on their word. And somebody had the most amazing analogy. I think it was on Joe Rogan. It's if the U.S. broke up and China, let's say, was the ones that did it. And then all of a sudden China's okay, we're going to put the government in place in Washington, in New York, in California, Arizona, and, Georgia. And then all of a sudden, but they're but we'll leave the rest alone. And then they just kept adding more governments and countries. You'd be wait, this isn't happening. And that's essentially what we did to Russia after the U.S., essentially got them to break up the Soviet Union. And so they're kind of just hey, this isn't what we agreed to. And so I'm over here I get it. I see why Russia is fighting back. I would probably be doing the same thing. I'm just anti-war. So for me, I'm can we just not be at war? But what's your thoughts on the actual war itself?
Obviously, yeah, war is never good. It's for anybody. You hope it doesn't happen. But Putin's a simple guy. Keep your word and don't mess around with me. And if you do, then we're going to have to cross the line. So if he's a guy that believes that if I don't take action, they'll just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Which they were. And whether you think that's right or wrong, that's for you to decide. But that's just who he is. So I'm not shocked by it. And if you're shocked by what he's done, then you don't know Putin and you don't know Russia. So
did you watch the Tucker Carlson interview?
No, I didn't.
You haven't watched it yet?
That's crazy, though.
It was pretty interesting. He started it. I was glad the way he did it. He started it with this whole history of Russia. And it was kind of a highlight, reel of Russia a little bit. But it also highlighted why they're at war. It's kind of give context for people that don't understand. They just think they're just going to war, right? But it's funny. I went to Russia once. I went to St. Petersburg. I was part of a cruise. And to go, because normally you have to get a visa, and it's very difficult to get a Russian visa, or a visa to Russia, I guess. And but with the cruise, if you bought the excursion, then you got to go.
Oh, wow.
And so we landed in St. Petersburg, and we did it was basically a Russian propaganda tour. It was pretty funny. They have a Russian person that meets you, and then you straight up get the Russia propaganda tour for the whole day.
Do you remember his name?
It was a lady.
Oh, it was a lady.
But they had plenty of them. It was for all of the cruise ship people and stuff. But I loved it was interesting because as you're driving to all the really beautiful places. Have you been to St. Petersburg, or where were you at?
I was in the far east.
Oh, really?
The hood of Russia.
Dude, Siberia type stuff.
Yep. It's called Vladivostok. It's the seaport, and it stretches all the way into Siberia.
Oh,
so
my
we were
gosh.
over where all they sent everybody away. They cast everybody away.
No kidding.
So it was a knife fight every day.
Oh my gosh. How cold did it get where you were?
Like -40.
Serious?
Yeah.
What do you even do?
Like we just work with members a lot and wouldn't be outside. Like, listen, back to perseverance. A fast Sunday on a mission in Russia may be the hardest thing I've ever done.
Why?
Dude, when you get cold and you're hungry,
Yeah.
like think how much like energy you burn, bro, trying to stay warm. It's just like you're 8 hours in, you're like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I'm like, I'm not making it. Dude, hardest thing ever. So those are one of those things that like you make it through that, life gets easier. So
Wow. Did you get to practice basketball at all in your mission?
no, I didn't, man.
Really?
I think I played one. I don't think I played one time in 2 years.
All right. So your freshman year, you have this great year. Again, you guys go to the Sweet 16. You ended up having 15 rebounds in the Florida game, by the way. Just like it's all I remember, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like this crazy game. We'll get back to that a little bit because it's just one of those moments, right? But you're on a mission for 2 years. You don't get to play basketball. You came home and had a great career, but how do you feel like, did the mission help you at all? Because sometimes, you know, you get that age and maturity, or do you think it really hurt you because you're not working out and working on your jump and your shot and all that stuff?
Oh, it definitely doesn't help basketball-wise. Like, listen, basketball is the highest skilled sport in the world.
Right.
People, it's not football. Football, you can like lift on your mission, come back, you get a little stronger,
bigger.
right? Get bigger, and you're like, okay. I could see that argument. Basketball, no. You got to dribble, shoot, the touch, the feel, the change of direction, all that stuff. So as far as just basketball, if I'm looking basketball, no. But
Did you at least dribble, like to bring a ball with you?
Bro, I did
Wait,
nothing.
serious?
I did nothing.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I'm no joke. I did nothing.
How hard was it to get it back?
It was tough. Like,
bet.
it came back fast, and I think that's part of the blessing of it. I mean, taking 2 years off. People don't realize, for me to play in the NBA, taking 2 years off, tearing my ACL 6 months after I get home. So 2.5 years out of the 4-year window or 3-year window of my prime, I wasn't playing basketball.
Wow.
So people were like, oh man, you only had a stint in the NBA. I'm like, bro, that stint was...
Anybody who plays 2 minutes in the NBA, that is like...
Did you see the stat? I think Charles Abula sent it to me. Less than 5,000 people have ever played in the NBA. Like ever.
Yeah.
Since the
Well, it's
very
only
beginning.
like 12, 14 guys on a team. It's not like, you know, football or even where there's, you know, 57 guys or 54, whatever it is. And baseball even has, you know, rosters get up to 40 guys for part of the year. Also, though, I mean, think about this for a second. Like, as a basketball player, well, let's just real talk for a second. If you were a better shooter,
yes,
you would have been a 15-year NBA player because every other skill, you were amazing.
Sure.
You're the all-time leader in the NCAA in triple doubles. Like, you knew how to find that ball, how to pass the ball, but you couldn't shoot very good.
Exactly.
So
No, it's timing.
if you took those 2.5 years and practiced shooting, do you ever look back and think like, what am
I don't at all. I mean, I had my stints in pro. I was shooting the ball a lot better and more. It's just kind of my style of game. But yeah, I always say it's timing. If I played in 2007, I would have been playing in the NBA for 7-8 years. You know, early 2000s.
So the game changed to what, more of a shooting?
Yeah, I mean,
game?
The first year in the NBA was 2017 for me.
Right.
That's the Houston Rockets 3-point shooting bonanza, whatever you want to call it. That was the peak of 3-point shooting.
Wow.
It's coming down from that. That was the high of 3-point shooting.
bigs are starting to become a bigger part of the game.
Yeah,
again and
so
stuff,
it's starting to balance back out. But 2017 was like the pinnacle of 3-point shooting, and that's when I played in the NBA. That was the year I was.
Splash Brothers really screwed you, bro.
Yeah,
they changed the game.
Splash Brothers. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But what's cool about all this is when I played in the G League, I've met some of the coolest people, like coaches and people that have blessed my life financially more than the NBA ever could. Like
in what way?
Like learning how to invest in crypto, the stock market, real estate. Like the NBA money would have just been NBA money, but I've been able to take my money I've got and create a great life just from the things I learned. But I learned those when I was in the G League, not in the NBA. So you see, like, God always has a blessing for you if you just flow with it.
Yeah, I've always, I talk about this quite a bit, but the thing that screws up your life is when you have expectations of what it's supposed to be. Like if you can only be happy being an NBA player, you're gonna have a miserable life, right? If you only needed, like if you just you know, if you have a dream and it doesn't work out, or doesn't work out the way you wanted it to, you just have to kind of go, okay, like this isn't where I planned on being, but it's pretty cool. Like I look at everything that way, you know, whether it's like some people, you know, I always thought I'd be married young and just never worked out that way. And I'm like, I can look at all the blessings of my life that came because of that. Right. And it doesn't mean it was the right path. It just means I chose a path and chose to accept that path, because any path you choose, whether it's being what you're doing now or versus the NBA or versus, you know, going on a mission or not going on a mission. I think as long as you just go, no, this is the path I'm on, because you can do anything, but you can't do everything. Like you have to pick things. Exactly. And, you know, what a beautiful opportunity to go as a 19-year-old kid to Russia and learn the lessons that you had to learn there. Yeah, that's immeasurable. Immeasurable,
man. It's blessed my life so much. I mean, learning Russian was about a 6-month period. It took me about 6 months, which is crazy fast. I used to wake up at 5:30 every morning, early, to get an extra hour of studying. I spent 6 weeks getting trained. I trained for 6 weeks, and then I got called as the assistant.
After 3 months out?
3 months out, brother. Wow. I remember having to translate for my mission president, giving a talk. It was the most humiliating experience of my life. Like, I look back to that and like, it doesn't get lower than that as far as just like the stress and the pressure. But that was one of those moments where I was like, dude, figure it out or don't speak the language. And it just like changed my life of like, man. And that 6-month period again happened with my ACL. They said, man, you're going to be out 9.5, 10 months. Probably maybe make it back for conference following year. I was like, no chance. I'm back in 6. 6 or under, I'm back. I was back in 5.5 playing.
Wow.
Back for the first game of the season, right? Because I've already went through that experience of breaking down a task and just chipping away every day and just believing in yourself.
Well, it really is that simple. Success is just a grind. Success is just consistency over time. Yes. It's doing the things that other people don't want to do. It's knowing where you want to be. And then you just go, okay, I'm going to work it backwards. If that's what it takes to get to that spot, that's where I'm going to go. I remember the moment on my mission, it was my second day. I was in Mexico. And so I mean, not nearly as hard to learn as Russian, not even close, but my second day, I didn't speak a lick.
Still hard, yep.
Right. I remember I'm sitting there, we're doing a discussion and this girl was going to get baptized. And all of a sudden, I couldn't understand a word. I thought everything was hunky-dory. And then, dude, next thing I know, everybody's crying. And my comp's like, we got to go. And we leave. I'm like, yo, what's up? And he's like, she's not getting baptized anymore. And the fact that I couldn't help, I couldn't do anything to like affect that situation. I said, okay, that is never going to happen again. I was so like, it hurt me so much to be powerless, because I literally couldn't talk to them. Couldn't understand a word. So I never left. We had to memorize every discussion. You know, they really wanted us to get it in 4 or 5 months. I memorized them all in 6 weeks. I was the first one to go. I was just like all in, dude. I was like, I have to be able to speak this language. And it's the hardest I've ever mentally worked on anything in my entire life. I was basically speaking Spanish in a month, you know. And
so cool.
Yeah. Because I was just like, that moment hurt me so much. I was like, geez.
Think how many of those moments you have on a mission.
Oh, yeah.
Like you probably have in 3 weeks, you probably have a year's worth of those moments in real life, just in 3 weeks in the mission of like those, someone like in Russia, they're so brutal. You start talking to a guy and he'd be like, huh? Like, dude, I don't understand you. He's like, you suck at Russian. You need to get better, man. I'm like, thanks, brother. Like, I'm working on it. He's like, seriously, get better. Or like, don't be speaking around. I'm like, how do you think I'm going to get better?
I had a lot of times, like, because my companions were all Mexican, and so they spoke fluent, obviously, right? And I had one time, I remember, it happened multiple times, but I remember one time in particular, the person, like, I give my portion of the discussion, and they just look at my companion and they're like, I didn't understand a word he said. You need to tell me. And I go, no. I was like, I'll do it again.
Yes, I'm doing it.
I guarantee he didn't hear a word again. He was just like, okay, yeah, I got you. And then we left. But I was like, no, I'm going to get this. Yes. But it was like the same thing, right?
You got to get those reps in, man. the painful reps.
Yeah. It's funny when you look back at how many lessons you get on a mission. Like, I mean, you're stuck with somebody that you never would have chosen to be with.
For sure.
24/7 for 2 years. Like, just that alone. You know, you see people that can't make a marriage last 2 years. It's like you're literally with a human that you would have never in a million years become friends with probably most of the time. Sometimes you get lucky. I didn't. Sure. I loved those guys, but they were not the guys I would have hung out with.
Yeah.
And you just have to deal with it. You just learn how to get along. And next thing you know, you love the shit out of them. You know? Exactly. You're like best friends.
Yeah, because you're in it together,
yes.
Man. You go through basically a little bit of war in a different sense together. So you're like, man, it's my dog.
Yeah.
We've gone through some stuff.
Yeah. So have you had a chance to watch much of BYU this year? I mean, they're having obviously an amazing season.
Yeah, recently I've watched the last couple of games. It's hard with kids. I got a 2.5-year-old, and you know sometimes he's just like, let's go play during the game, or like turn this off or whatever. You know, little kids.
Dude, I used to never miss a game of anything. Like I would go to the. I mean, your guys is so it was your freshman year, Jimmer's senior year, right? Yeah, right. Yeah. I think I went to like 14-year-old games, 16-year-old games. It was a crazy number. Like I went to almost all of them. I went to San Diego State. I went to, you know, all these other. Yeah. I went to all the tournament games, like, and because I knew it was a special season,
right.
I was like, I don't want to miss any of this. But I guess as you get older, I can't decide if it's like the world has changed or just I've changed. But I've only caught a couple of games this year. It's just, you just don't have time for it. I can catch the highlights in 2 minutes. And the beauty of sports is the camaraderie or doing it together and, you know, having that moment. But it's just hard to plan, especially in person. I mean, it's a 5-6 hour thing to go there.
It is, man. An unpopular opinion, most people probably won't like this. You have to be careful with sports. Sports is a huge distraction, man.
It is, dude. It's so much time.
So much time. I mean, going to a game is like 4 or 5 hours, like you said. You got to get in the car. You got to get early for parking, and then you got to get there and then leave. And so sports to me is, I don't want to get too tied up in them because I understand what sports are, what sports done for me, but I was on the other side of it.
Yeah.
I was making money from sports.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people, I mean, sports, they don't like that. There's a baseball player right now, Anthony Rendon, and he just said that he doesn't like baseball. He's one of the highest paid players in the game. The fans are flipping out. Yeah. He goes, this is my job. He's like, I go do it every day. I do my job as best I can, but I don't enjoy this. He goes, I think he said something along the lines of like, you guys, if you knew what we had to go through, you wouldn't like it either.
Baseball is so monotonous, man. I couldn't imagine being a professional baseball player.
Yeah. It's 162 games.
Yes.
And the days that, I mean, you're at the field, those games, they get there, I think usually, you know, for a night game, you're there by noon. You know, you're batting, you're getting taken care of, you're getting your reps in. I mean, dude, it's
I don't know how they do it. Yeah. That'd be the hardest sport by far.
I feel like for like a minor league baseball player, they make about $1,200 a month. It might have gone up a little bit by now, but it's not much. And basically they need a bunch of guys that are trying to live out their dream to play against the guys that they know are going to make it to the big leagues, right? Like you need good competition. So they pay them just enough and feed the carrot just enough where they stay playing. But you're up in Butte, Montana, you know, or freaking just, I mean, Ogden, like, you know, like I got a buddy playing for the Raptors right now. And you're just like, man, that's a grind, dude.
Yeah, that's not for the faint of heart. That's for sure.
So when you got up and you started playing with the Mavericks, I think one thing that's kind of cool about that organization, they're kind of known as the one that takes the best care of their players in every way. What was that? What was the experience of playing for an organization like that?
So backstory, I named my dog Dirk. I've been a Mavs fan since 2001. Like,
well, you were a Mavs fan too?
Huge.
Oh, that's like, cool.
When they lost in 2006 to the Miami Heat when they were up 2-0, like I was just in tears. Like as a kid, I was just like heartbroken. So not only to play in the NBA, but to play for the Mavs is like the pinnacle for, you know, a kid. That was always every year for my birthday, I would get NBA League Pass.
That's what you got for your birthday?
October 3rd is my birthday. I'm like, what do you want? I'm like, I want NBA League Pass. Come home from school, homework, play. 5 o'clock's the first game, East Coast time. I'm locked in.
Wow. So you have changed a lot since when you were a kid, I guess. Because Dude, I used to sit in front of the TV in my parents' room. I was the only one that had WGN and watch the Cubs games because that was the only baseball on. And so you're by default, you're either a Braves or a Cubs fan. Those were the two teams that were playing. You know?
That makes sense. Why everyone's like Braves or Cubs fan, the older people.
It's the only two you could watch. But the Braves, like their telecast was kind of boring and their announcers were kind of boring. And so it was kind of dry, whereas WGN, dude, the Cubs had Harry Carey. I don't know if you know who that is. This dude was nuts, dude. He had these big Coke bottle glasses. It's Will Ferrell, if you guys never seen
that's
it.
What I remember.
Yeah, he's like,
I'm Harry Carey.
Yes, and he's like, that's how he was in real life, though. That's how the real guy was.
Funny.
He was drunk half the time. They literally had beer commercials, and they even like he had this song he would sing. He's like, I'm a Cubs fan and a Bud man, and he was drunk half the telecast, dude. It's freaking hilarious. And so when Will Ferrell Burrow makes fun of me. He's like, if the moon was made out of Swiss cheese, would you eat it? You know, it's like that's the kind of shit that he might come up with in the middle of the game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it was so fun to watch.
Dots are connecting for me.
Yeah. And he was always calling. It's like your uncle that still doesn't know your name, even though it's been like 20 years and keeps calling you your brother's name and stuff. So he'd like call the players the wrong names and stuff. And
just no one cares.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, but and so you got to play for your favorite team.
Yeah.
How was your relationship? Who was so Dirk was still there in 2017.
JJ Bray was there.
Oh yeah.
And those were.
You guys make the playoffs the year you were there?
No, we didn't. We
that was like Dirk's last years.
Yes. So we were the team that made sure we got Luka Doncic.
Oh, dude. Yeah. That's worth losing a year.
It's funny. I actually did a tweet. It got like probably like 500,000 views, but I was just like, you guys, like, you're welcome. I played a huge part in getting Luka, and all the Mavs fans were joking with me, like, you're the best, love you, blah, blah, blah.
How much better was the competition at the NBA level even compared to, a high-end college game?
No, it's not even close. People have no idea. Like, you watch that Kansas team play, how many of those guys are going to touch the NBA? I don't know if
probably
anybody
none.
will.
Their best player wasn't in the game, and he's the one that would, will be an NBA guy.
So think about that. Like, that's why, a Kansas fan, I tweeted out something about Bill Self, how he said, if you don't go on a mission, I'll offer you.
He said that to you?
Yeah, at their camp. He's like, are you going to go on a mission? He's like, we're going to highly consider offering you. Like, we really love you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going on a mission. Like, all right, well, we're done. So I just put out a tweet like, man, this coach said this. I'm like, it was nice to get a win on his home floor. Not like I wasn't like, I don't care.
Of course.
I don't, Bill Self, I have no like,
well, that dude has the top 50 players in the nation, and he hits up all 50.
Yes.
And he eliminates the ones that it's a logistical problem.
Yes, me. Boom.
You were one of those. It wasn't personal.
Not personal at all. But I had some Kansas people saying, if you went to Kansas, like, you'd never get off the bench. And I was like, stop. I would start. I'd be running the show at Kansas, just like it did at BYU. But yeah, it's not even close. Like, you see really good college players. They don't. Dude,
some of the top 10 picks in the league never get out of the G League.
Yes.
There was a dude a couple of years ago, that tall dude. What was his name? He never even made the NBA. He was like the third pick in the draft. Like, but that's like a common story. I mean, if you go look, like, if you Google like picks 11 through 30 of the first round of the last 20 drafts, you never heard of half the guys. They didn't even make the league, really. They never got off the bench. Those are the best players.
Yeah, it's so hard. Yeah, people have no idea. A lot of things has to fall in place for you, like trades. Like, for example, for me, I played my first year there. Like, the exit interview went well. My agents, like, they really like you. Rick Carlisle loved me. Like, things are going good. Like, you're playing summer league with them. They're bringing you back next year. Training camp, you're going to make the team. Like, things are going good. Right before summer league, I'm working out in St. George. I go to St. George for a week, put myself through 3 days. Wake up at 4 a.m, just like shock the system.
Yeah.
Keep me tight, get in shape. I'm on, I think, my second workout. I get a call from my agent, and he's like, dude, terrible news. The Mavs traded for DeAndre Jordan. They had to waive 3 people on the roster, and one of them was you. I was like, oh, man.
That's a common story, dude.
Common story.
I had Eric Mika on. His was very similar. It was a trade that got him cut.
Yeah, and it's like the Mavs were like, man, like, we're sorry, man. Like, it just has to be. We got guys locked in on 2-year deals that can't go anywhere. And so you were one of the 3 that had to go. But, like, it didn't change their perspective on me, but it's just the timing of the deal.
Well, I always look at, certain guys just fall in positions on their team. I mean, I had Jimmer on years ago, and, he gets picked up by the Kings, and the coach loves him. 11 games in, the coach gets fired.
Exactly.
And the coach that comes in hates him and loves Isaiah Thomas, who they also picked at the end of the first round.
Yes.
And that dude becomes a star for him. It's just like they ran the offense around him, which they could have ran around Jimmer. There's so much luck that gets involved with that kind of stuff, And you always think about, like, a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes gets to go sit a year in Kansas City, has the best offensive coach maybe in the entire league, and and all of a sudden he's got a couple stars, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, guys that can make you look really good, and boom, he becomes maybe the best quarterback ever. Whereas somebody else gets put in a position where, look at Zach Wilson's situation.
All these quarterbacks. Right? Like, get picked early.
Yeah.
They get sent to, like, the worst offensive line. And it's like, no matter how good you are, you're not going to overcome that obstacle.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
That's like Dak Prescott. Like, his rookie year, that Cowboys offensive line, for him and Zeke Elliott was clearing holes.
It was the best offensive line maybe ever put together. Yeah.
And think about that. And then he gets to play, he gets the confidence, and he's like, I'm an NFL guy, look how good I am. And then you never go back from there.
Yeah.
Even if your offensive line isn't as good later, because now you got the confidence and the reps. And
did you get to play any summer ball with Luka before you got cut?
No. I saw him around, though, a little bit.
Yeah, how good's that dude?
He's so good mentally. He just doesn't care what you think.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to like put in a billion hours to be good at something. He's just like, saw him on a podcast the other with JJ Redick, and they're like, do you practice these moves? He's like, no. He said, I just think about it in my mind, and the game's so slow for me, I can just apply it like during the middle of the game. Like that's how skilled he is, and that's how smart.
Dude, that guy was the MVP of the EuroLeague, I think, at 16. Like, think about that.
I'm sorry. This is where the people in the NBA, some of these GMs guys aren't smart.
Yeah, how Luka was he the fourth pick, I think?
Fifth. Like, it was a trade for Trae Young. So Mavericks drafted Trae Young at 3 because that's who Atlanta wanted.
Okay.
And then they did a trade. But think about that. You're telling me there's 4 guys better? There's 0 guys better.
There's this bias of, you probably fell victim to this a little, like if you don't look the part, right? I mean, Luka looks like kind of like a chubby kid kind of. And look at Jokic. You're like, dude, I was watching some highlights that came up on my TikTok the other day of Jokic. I'm just like, it's so funny to watch him because he truly doesn't care either.
No,
it's that. I think it's that European thing. They
especially from Serbia, man. Those guys do not care.
Dude, how great was it after he won the NBA Finals and on the stand he finds out he has to wait a few days to go home for the parade?
He was so mad. He's like, wait, what? It's like in 2 days? He's like, no. He's like, I'm not going. That's what he said. Yeah, I'm not going. They probably had to pay him like...
yeah, well, it's so funny. You don't know how much of it's a show, but it is funny to watch though, because some guys you watch him like LeBron, the guy's just a beast. It reminds me of Karl Malone, the look, right? I mean, their game is nothing alike, but I mean, you see him and you're like, oh my gosh, of course, you know. But then you see a guy like Jokic, dude, and he just doesn't care. He's not in shape, he's not toned, but he is so skilled and so good at basketball. It's so fun to watch.
He's the best. I love his personas, everything he brings. Yeah, he makes the game slow.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Yeah, because here's what people don't realize: like the more your skill, higher your skill level, the better decision maker you are.
Sure.
And then the game's just slow for him. So people are like, he's not athletic, and yes, I agree, but he continually gets by people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a skill thing, right?
Right. So same with Luka. They're like, Luka's not athletic, but I disagree with that because the way that boy can change directions and decelerate is crazy athletic.
Yeah.
His ability to stop and get space is,
I think he more deceives you because he doesn't look athletic, but I think he is.
And I think they put in the NBA and people put jumping as the main form of athleticism. That's like the top. But what else do we have? We have change of directions, deceleration, we have running, we have like just
body control,
a bunch of different other things. And like Jokic and Luka, body control, deceleration, change of pace, like understanding angles.
Well, it's like a baseball pitcher, right? Like you would think if the guy can throw it faster, it's gonna be harder to hit. But the truth is location is the most important thing by far. Like Greg Maddox, top 5 pitcher of all time, it was all about location. He threw
how fast could he throw?
He was average to below average in the league on speed. It was 91 to 93.
Crazy.
And the guy had an ERA under 2 or under 3 for most of his career. You know, he's I think 7th all time on wins, like a crazy number, dude. Like,
he just put it right in the sweet spot.
Yeah, he literally could just put it, and his ball moved a lot too. So that's all. You know, it's a skill. It's like being able to manipulate the ball in a way that. And if you've ever, I was talking to a buddy one time. He got drafted in the 3rd round of baseball, and played in the minors, played up to AAA. And I said, dude, you probably faced a lot of cool pitchers that ended up making the league. Who's the hardest pitcher you ever faced? And he goes, I went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts against Jamie Moyer. Do you know who that is? This guy, his last year in the league was 49 years old, and he was throwing at 80 maybe. And dude, just winning game after game, and nobody could figure it. So it was cool because I had that insight. He said, dude, his ball moved so much. I don't know how the catcher caught it. He's like, I was playing wiffle ball and just missing. That dude was able to manipulate the ball. So he ended up playing till he was 49 because even though he only threw at 80 miles an hour, you couldn't hit the damn thing. So
it's crazy.
You just don't even think about those things.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. There's a lot that goes into it. But
yeah,
I think the NBA is changing. I think American basketball is changing. Like, we have to get to a point where we start valuing skill more and decision making.
Do you think that's, I mean, the problem I think is, you know, these AAU teams, these guys want to play and just game after game after game, and there's nobody teaching the skills. Did you fall into that a little bit? Or
no, what? I didn't play AAU till I was 16 years old, man.
Wow.
And then it was like time to hoop. You know, I was playing up with my brother 3 years. We were just playing pickup games in the neighborhood, hustling people, like just playing open gyms, high school. Yeah, I didn't play till I was 16. And I started a basketball club, defensive love, our company. And our niche with it is we're going the European route. Like, we are focusing on skill training. Like, we'll play 2-on-2, 3-on-3 in our training sessions, teaching kids to play 3-on-3 without dribbling the basketball. Learn to score. Set back screens, curl, pin downs, all this stuff. Like, we're teaching kids how to play the game the right way. Because, yeah, if you go play 100 games in a year, you won't get better at anything.
Right.
Like, if you're a good shooter, you will remain that. If you're a bad dribbler, you'll remain that. And nothing gets better, and really nothing gets worse. Maybe some if you don't get to shoot a lot. But so we're trying to bridge that gap and bring the European mindset and skill training into basketball. So that's we're actually starting today.
Awesome.
First day today. So,
really?
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, we're excited. Just help kids get better, man. Like, understand the game. And then, like, we're from Utah. Like, we need to be super smart, skilled decision makers. We need to be good defenders.
There's only been a couple of guys out of the state that have made the league in the last 20 years. I mean, Frank Jackson, Mika had short stints. You know, you got Britton Johnson had a short stint. Is there anyone else? I don't even.
Sam Merrill. He's
had a good little career.
He's running right now. He's gonna have a good career.
But you know what I mean? For like, there's not very many for how much basketball gets played here. So you really do have to take those things and get to the next level, or else there's just no chance.
Sure. And parents need to just like stop thinking about college in the NBA. Like, I get parents asking me about college, and it's like, well, does your son dominate varsity? They're like, no, he doesn't play varsity yet. I'm like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my brother said something smart once. He said, like, somebody said, you know, like, this kid doesn't even have a chance to play in college. What's the point of like putting all this effort in high school? And he was like, maybe he just loves playing high school baseball. Maybe he just love high school. Yeah. Because I tell people this with a podcast. I have so many people ask me, like, all right, how do I get a podcast to get it to go and, like, you know, get the traction like you've had? And I said, look, there's one thing that you have to make sure that you nail with a podcast. You better love doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Period. Because the second you don't like doing it, you're not going to do it. Because you're not going to get likes, and you're not going to get the fame you think, or the views, or the guests that you want, have the conversations you want to have. Eventually, if you love it, you'll do it enough that you will.
Right.
But that's the one thing. I'm like, find a way to do it where you freaking love it. I love doing the podcast. Like, we're sitting down today, we're going to have an hour conversation. I got 2 more podcasts today I'm doing. I freaking love it, dude. Last week I got to sit down with Roger Clemens for an hour. You know, it's like, grew up watching that guy play some of the biggest baseball games in history. Like, I sat down with Ed Milet last week. I'm going to visit Chris Williamson in Austin next week. He's got the 4th biggest podcast in the country right now. All because for 7 years, I loved doing this.
And then you built it because now you can build it to the point where you're at now.
Right. But that's the one thing with basketball. Like, you better find a way where you love it.
Yes.
If you're making your kid do all these things he doesn't like, good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's going to be a miserable kid.
Yes, and then he's going to resent you. And it's going to be a resentment cycle that you guys are going to have to deal with the rest of your life. It's just like, yeah, it's not that serious. It's really not. Like, it's just sports. It's not that serious.
Like, my whole college, I'd say my whole 20s and my teen years, I thought, like, BYU sports was so important, even in my 30s, if I'm being honest. And now I see it for what it is, and I'm like, it was never relevant. It just wasn't. Like, and by the way, I don't want to dismiss the beauty of taking your family to a game, going to the game with your buddies.
For
like,
sure.
Going all in is awesome, and it doesn't matter. So you have to remember both things. Like, go for the experience, but don't worry about the outcome. Like, I remember
That's the difference right there.
Totally. Like, I remember, dude, when Brandon Davies, your freshman year, and I went to the San Diego State game. Peak of BYU basketball, maybe ever. That's probably the peak.
That was wild.
And all of a sudden, I mean, I think you were ranked 3rd in the country at the time, projected as a 1 seed now, and then 2 days later, you know, hits the fan. And I remember being devastated for months. Like I had regret somehow, like I'd screwed something up, and it was like
it's your fault, Jimmy.
I guess I saw Brandon at some parties. I could have whacked a few of the girls away from him, and said, "Get away, ladies." But no, you know what I mean? They're like, that hurt me so much, and I'm like, wait. That shouldn't like affect my life at all. But yeah, love the experience. Yeah. Go all in on the experience.
Go with your kids,
paint your face. Go take the trip to, dude, when you guys played Florida in the Sweet 16, I remember we had to take a red eye to New York, down to New Orleans. I remember we had to sleep in the airport because we couldn't get a hotel. Like what we went through to watch that basketball game, I just like is insanity, right? And you start thinking about some of those things, you're just like, geez.
Yep. That's the difference. You said it. Like, we're not saying like don't go, but like, go enjoy it and don't have it leak into every aspect of your life where it dominates your conversation. It's all you talk about. Your wife's just like, oh, hey, like, we done here? You want to talk about something different?
Well, it's like, for an example, like a couple years ago, I put a tweet out. I didn't even care, dude. It was like a Utah tweet about their football team. And dude, I like stepped away from my computer for a few hours and I came back and I was just talking BS. I just was saying something ridiculous, Funny, And dude, by the time I came back, I mean, it was the hate that was hundreds of comments. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't done it since. I'm like, I am never going to tweet something about sports that's stupid again. I'm like, to me, it was a throwaway. It was just something stupid to say. And dude, there's people that are like, I hate this guy. If I ever see him in person, I'm over here like, wait, and it kind of ruined my day. And I'm like, why did I just ruin my day for a stupid tweet? I'm like, this is dumb. I literally haven't done it since. And I refuse to, but we just get caught up in the wrong thing. I mean, dude, after you guys lost to Florida, I'm guessing because there was a free throw that you had at the end of the game. Obviously, you remember if you make it, I think we win in regulation.
We would have gone up one with 50 seconds.
Okay, so yeah, it would have put the lead or whatever.
So
right?
I made one to tie it. I missed one to go up.
Yeah, and you've had probably your best game of the year up to this point. You've
for sure.
played phenomenal, right? Yes. That's the crazy part. But I bet you had people literally screaming at you through the internet. I'm guessing.
They were. Yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah, so, sure. You can
like
which is nice
because I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. Like that was my 15th rebound. I jumped over and grabbed a rebound over someone.
Yeah,
that shouldn't have been my rebound. I got fouled, tied it up.
Yep.
So to me, it's however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Like I tied it up.
Yeah.
And we were one offensive rebound. The ball, I still remember, like bounced.
Yes.
There's three of us right there. If we would have grabbed it, the game was over.
Do you have any, when you look back on that year, obviously there is the what if, right? But it sounds like you don't play that game very much. It's a pointless game anyways. But like going back to the Brandon situation, what was that experience for you?
Yeah, that was tough. I mean, we grew up together. We lived in the same house for a little bit. Together, yeah, like he lived in the same house as me for a couple years in high school, really close. It was tough. I mean, it's tough on him. He's trying to figure out some things in his life. It's a tough situation. I think it was an unfair situation. I wish someone would have just said, like, he can't get his grades right or something.
It's a brutal thing for a kid to have to, like, be shamed at that level for, I mean.
I just like team rules. Like, you could have just said, like, what team rule do you want to say you broke? It just can't be on time or whatever. I just can't get my grades at whatever. But it was tough. We grew up together, same high school team, best friends in high school. Like, we all committed. He went to BYU first, and I was like, hey, if you go, I'll go. And we were kind of like playing that game. Where are you going to go? And so we were super close. So that was very, very tough. Just to, like, we're starting together on this team. Like, we're both, like, big contributors. And then just, like, boom. Just like that. I remember when he got the phone call, and it was just like after practice, and it was just like, it was a mess. But
yeah,
worked out.
Those are those things that you grow from, and
absolutely, yeah.
It was such an. I think it's one of those. Just there's this, there's that, and there's the COVID year for BYU was really good too. They had like 5 great players, really good players, and you always kind of wonder.
Yeah, that was a big what if. Yeah, for sure.
I think when you guys ended up getting back a few times, but did you have a favorite memory or moment from NCAA tournaments and stuff that you played? I mean, that's, we're about to have this podcast is going to drop the first day of the tournament. Get people excited.
I remember just The first game, who did we play? Wofford?
Wofford, yeah. That Brown team. That's all I remember.
That's all I remember, too. I'm like, and it wasn't Wyoming.
You were like the tallest guy on the court if you were on their team. They were short as heck.
I just remember being in that locker room. It was in Colorado, correct?
Yeah, it was Denver. Mm-hmm.
Denver, yeah. I just remember being in that locker room like, we're about to play in the tournament. Like, we're a high seed. Like, this is the start of it. And it's just being like, man, this is what I want to do forever. And just running out of the tunnel into the game. And, you know, getting those first nerves out. Everyone in that game, we won, but it wasn't a pretty win. Mm-hmm. That's pretty common in the NCAA tournament. But just getting that first win under the belt, like, okay, here we are. And then Gonzaga, I think I had a really good game that game in the tournament.
Yeah.
I think I had 12 points. 12 points, rebound the ball well. They actually had Kelly Olynyk.
Oh, they did?
He played a year. He was super out of shape, out of weight. Like his cankles, he had like cankles, huge legs. He guarded me.
Okay.
And like during the kind of stalling out, we were up, so we were stalling the ball. I was just handling the ball up top, and he's trying to guard me. And I was just like
going around him
and playing.
He's had a nice NBA career.
Yeah, but what happened was he played a year. They redshirted him. He completely changed his body, everything, and then the next year he played, and I think he was drafted after that year.
Yeah.
So he took a year. So I always tell people, dude, just 1 year of dedication can change your whole life. Think about that guy. 1 year, literally 50, 60 million.
I think people, and we'll get into this a little bit now and everything, but, you know, I think people underestimate how much really focusing and really just taking control of your life for, 90 days can change everything, because your confidence is the first thing to change, and then from there, absolutely everything can change. And that's kind of what you're doing now, is just helping people have like these transformations.
Yeah.
Correct?
And I do a 90-day, my one-on-one coaching program I do is 90 days for that specific reason. Like,
what do you do with them in that 90 days?
So I create personal meal plans, workout plans for them. And the biggest thing I do is I help them create a healthy lifestyle mindset. It's a mindset, man. Mm-hmm. Like, it's all a mindset.
When I teach the health and fitness section of my course for my men's group, I say to them, look, guys, physical problems are actually emotional or mental. Amen. They're never physical.
Amen. No.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a broken ankle, it's physical. But otherwise, it's a mental, emotional problem.
There's layers deep, and there's usually some self-sabotage or upper limit syndrome that's holding you back.
Explain that a little bit. What does that look like, and how do you overcome it?
So I don't know, through whatever process some people through life go through life, and they just don't think they deserve it, or they don't think they can break the barrier of more happiness. So I allow people to really get deep in their mind and figure out, like, what's really holding you back? Oh, it's money. No, it's not. It's not money. You can invest, right? I'll let you pay $100 payment over if you really want it, right? We'll figure out the money situation. So I let them think about what's really holding them back. And usually it's attached to some form of identity. Most people are identity. Like, I was talking to a guy the other day, and he's just been identified as the fat guy his whole life. Like, that's just who he is, and he can't see himself outside of that. So helping him really detach from that first and foremost, and then creating a new identity. And the way you create a new identity is by building habits one at a time. Right? If I have a morning smoothie every day, all of a sudden my identity improves a little bit, right? It's more closer to a healthy person. Then as my identity raises, so do my standards, right? I used to have fast food, but now I don't, because I identify closer with a healthy person. Now my standards raise, and without trying, I quit fast food, right? So I teach people, like, let's not do the friction game of like, quit, no sugar, no this, no that, because it just becomes...
Until you have the identity change, it's just a matter of time before your willpower breaks down.
Exactly. You're literally just taking like a 30-day loan of being a different person.
Well, it's funny. In the book Atomic Habits, it's one of the best books I think ever written, but he says any real change is an identity change. And it's the difference between saying like, oh, I don't want to be fat, so I'm not going to eat, versus saying I'm not a fat person, or I'm not a person that eats donuts. I don't eat donuts. You know what I mean? It's like, it's when you say like that is your identity, then you don't have to worry about it. It's off the table.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Dude, words matter so much.
Oh, the power of words, dude.
I could just talk for hours about words.
Same.
Like, what you say literally comes to fruition. Like, I've always said, like, I don't want to have a career where I beat up my body. And I didn't know what that meant. But here I am, like, most likely done playing. I have a tune, because my whole thing is I want to be like when my son's teenager, I want to be running with him.
Yeah. Did you just tease a possible comeback?
Maybe. But so I'm had these words that I say, and they come to life, man. Mm-hmm. If you really backtrack where you're at, mm-hmm. you can, if you go back enough, you can find the words and the thoughts that you had at one point that funneled you to that.
Well, it's, right now. You know, the thoughts and the people you spend your time with will create your beliefs, which will create your actions, which creates your life. I mean, that's real. It's that simple. We've all heard it a million times, but I think people always say your thoughts create your beliefs. I say it's your thoughts and the people you're around.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they're going to infect your thoughts.
Yep,
you know?
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, dude. Well, one thing I love, I had you come on about a year ago. In fact, it was a little over a year. I know that because you challenged everybody on my group call to do 100 push-ups a day.
Right.
And dude, most of the people on the call took the challenge. I ended up doing it all the way through till the beginning of August. I had surgery on my chest. And so I did, I don't know how many days that was, but a lot. But dude, I got to tell you, I just got a text the other day. They finished a year.
That's sweet,
and
man.
Dan Swiss, Brad Lancaster, Nate Hostetler, Brian Thomas, Alex Valencia, and Colton Fitzgerald.
Shout out to you boys.
Shout out to them. Dude, they did, since your call, that 6 dudes did 100 push-ups every single day. And every one of them has, when they first started, it was kind of cool. I remember Brad saying, he couldn't get like 15 in a row. It was like, it took him an hour of taking breaks to do it. And I mean, now that he does 50 and 50 or whatever, you know, 40, 40, 20, like he can basically do the whole thing. And they all look different. Colton's, I think he's down 40 pounds or something. And so tell why that is such an effective way to start people on their health journey.
One, it requires no equipment.
You can do it anywhere.
Anywhere, brother.
You're in a hotel room. It's midnight.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I know because I did that a few times.
Yeah, you're just like, okay, oh wait, I don't have to change my clothes. I don't have to get a dumbbell or something. So yeah, it just removes all sort of friction. And think about how quick it is. It's usually about 3.5 to 4 minutes to do 100. Mm-hmm. You spread out in sets throughout the day. 10 sets of 10. It'll take you about 15 seconds max. Mm. Dude, it's literally a small percentage of your day. But it's that small percentage of your day that changes your day or change your weeks, your months, or your life. So it's something simple and tangible, but it's also something that's big enough where it's like, man, like this t-shirt, like I did 100 push-ups today. You're like, Yeah, but it's really not big, but it is big.
Well, and it starts that identity change.
Exactly.
I'm a person that works out every day. I have commitments that I keep every day, right? Like it starts that identity change. I remember being in bed when I was doing it every single day. And I remember being in bed, like asleep, dude. And I like settled up in the night. It was like 4 in the morning. I'm like, oh, I didn't do my push-ups. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. But like 4 in the morning, I got up and freaking pounded out 100 push-ups. It took me another 30 minutes to get back to sleep after. But
the blood's flowing. You're ready for war now.
Yeah. But no, it's a really cool challenge. So do you have like an app or something that people can use to go to? Where do you send them to do the 100 push-up challenge?
We have a Worth Fitness app. It's free on the App Store, Worth Fitness. You can download it. You can track 100 push-ups a day, your pull-ups, smoothies, water intake. There's a whole bunch. There's a leaderboard. You can create your own groups, and it's fun. You can compete with friends, family.
Love it.
So it's pretty cool, yeah.
You played in the WCC. It was kind of this weird time for BYU.
Oh, man.
Just a lot of bad games. They're in the Big 12 now. How big of a difference would have that made for you playing in that conference?
This is the biggest what if if we want to talk about one. WCC was such a trap. People don't realize it.
Talk about it.
Like you play Gonzaga, St. Mary's, right? If you think about BYU's success against Gonzaga, St. Mary's, it's good.
Yeah, they actually won a lot of games that maybe they shouldn't.
Like I was beating St. Mary's for sure once every year. Sometimes twice. We'd get them at their place. We always won at home. Gonzaga, we were splitting every year. Like I won at their place my whole time. I beat Gonzaga. I'm like I beat them our freshman year we played them. I beat St. Mary's freshman year we played them. I beat Gonzaga in the tournament my freshman year. I beat them 3 times at their place in tournament. So what I'm saying is like we were competing with the best teams in conference. But then you have this drop down to the bottom. You better win by 20 or it was a failure. It was a lose-lose, man.
Well, and it doesn't prep you very well for the tournament because you're playing such bad competition most of the time that you get in against Texas A&M or, Xavier, whoever it was in the tournament, and it was just off.
Exactly. And it's like you said, like whoever you surround yourself with is who you become. Like if you're with the San Diegos, the Pepperdine's, Pacifics so long, you start to become them. And the Big 12 is opposite that. Mm-hmm. Like Gonzaga would come in, they're down this year, but on a good year, they would probably have a chance to win the Big 12.
At least getting,
Yeah, they made it to championship twice, right?
Yeah.
Right? So Gonzaga is the top program in the country. So we were beating them consistently. So the Big 12 allows you to play up to your level of competition every night, and that's the advantage. And that's why, to me, I'm not shocked that BYU is where they're at.
Well, and I think like for BYU, you always went in as an 11 seed or 9 or whatever it was, right? And you're looking at this and you're like, oh man, we're going to have to play a 2 or a 1 next. And it's kind of like this daunting task. Dude, I was looking at the bracket this year and all the 2s and 3s are teams BYU's beat or they've played, right? And so all of a sudden you're like, wait, Houston's a 1. Dude, they can play with Houston. So all of a sudden, when you're the 5, you're looking at the 4 seed, and you're like, oh, we got that. San Diego State would be the 4. We've already beat them this year. Exactly. I think I'm kind of excited for BYU to play in the tournament this year because I think that experience will take away the almost like the, shock wow, effect, look at this team we're playing,
Exactly.
And they can go in and win a couple games in a row.
Here's what I don't want. I don't want BYU to be a 5 seed.
Because that 1 seed they have to play or what?
Because of the 5 versus 12 matchup. I'm just like they've made it a thing. There's an identity behind it.
That's true. Speaking of identity, right?
I'd rather them just be a 6 seed at that point.
Well, the only reason why they need to become a 5 is they'll play in Salt Lake.
Okay, so maybe take that back.
They'd be in Salt Lake.
But you still have that daunting 12-5.
Yeah.
Make it
the thing about a 12 seed too is like they always have one great player.
Yes.
And then they've got 4 guys that can compete their asses off. And they're used to winning.
Yes.
They're teams that know how to win.
That 12 seed just seems like they don't care. They're always like slinging the ball like they've been playing in the tournament their whole life. They just play. It's that identity of just like it's become a thing.
Yeah. Well, I think recruiting obviously becomes a factor. One thing that I talked about, I had Coach Fugger on here the other day, and he talked about how BYU really needs to up their NIL game. They're just not competing on that yet. And it's a huge factor. I mean, you came to BYU. Obviously, you went to Provo High School. It was in your backyard. But did you ever almost not come to BYU? Was there ever any chance of you going somewhere else?
Oh, yeah.
What?
I almost went to Virginia.
Really?
It was super close. People don't know that.
How Virginia? Why?
Tony Bennett. That's my guy. He was at Washington State. And they recruited me heavy when I was young, like freshman, sophomore. He recruited my brother, and then they went to Virginia, and they wanted me bad.
And would have you been on the team that lost as a 1 or the national championship team the next year?
No, I don't think so.
That was after you?
That was after. But yeah, he's a great coach. I mean, as far as me making it to the NBA and having a great, steady career, that would be an elite path. But
do you think about obviously, again, it's the what if game, but that's the one place you would have gone other than
and it was close.
Really?
Yes, really close.
What swung it for you?
The mission a little bit. They were kind of like, hey, maybe you play 2 years and then go on a mission. I'm like, yeah, I know what you're doing. Like, I ain't playing 2 years and going on a mission. Like, I'm trying to make it the NBA. Like, I'm either going to get out there and then come back or, not go. But so that kind of swung a little bit. But I was locked in. The top 100 NBA camp was in Virginia.
Okay.
That year. So it was the top 100 players. I was there. We were competing. And so it was just in their arena, their area, just talking with them. Like I'm at the pinnacle. Like I'm a top 100 player from Utah, representing Utah. Mm-hmm. Like, for me, I'm like, man, I'm that dude. And then Virginia's all like, they're like, hey, come on. Let's get this going. Let's sign. They wanted me to sign there. And
did you go on a recruiting trip there?
Yeah.
What did they do on your recruiting trip? How'd they try to convince you?
Just treated me like a king.
Did they?
Bro, recruiting trips were.
What did it roll it out? I think that's one thing that people are curious. Like, what happens to a top recruit on a recruiting trip to a major?
I mean, they just line you up with famous people, anyone that they can. The food's great. You're hanging out, you're going to football games. It's just a fun experience. A fun one. I went to USC. You know Jordan Cameron?
Yeah.
So he played at BYU. So he knew my brother. He played basketball.
Oh, that's right. He played basketball.
So we knew him, but he was my host at
where did he take you out?
I did not go out. He tried getting me to go out, but yeah, it was fun. It was just him and his sister. Him and his sister actually lived together. Sister that.
Okay.
Blake Griffin.
Is she the one that ended up getting pregnant from Matt Lennart?
And Blake Griffin, I believe.
And Blake Griffin. Wow.
Yes.
Good for her.
Yeah. So she set financially. Yeah. So that was pretty interesting trip, but that was like the pinnacle of. And then I was going to go to Arizona State.
Okay.
This was like, for you kids listening, if you want to go on a mission, this is like the moments where you have to make a decision. I went to Arizona's campus.
Arizona State or Arizona?
Sorry, Arizona State.
Okay.
And I'm 17, right? I'm not kidding. Like for me at that point in life, the first 5 girls I saw, which was probably staged, were like the most beautiful girls I've ever seen in my life.
Bro, I went to Arizona State. That's where I got my master's.
Oh boy.
It wasn't staged.
It's wild. Yeah. And I've heard it's wild. Yeah.
But by the way, Arizona State's kind of got a little mix of everything because the Institute building is at the center of campus. It's kind of crazy. Like the best real estate on campus is the Institute building. And they paid like tens of millions of dollars for this land. I've researched it. But anyway, long story short, dude, my first week there, I'm just like, oh boy. And, you know, at the time I'm super active LDS, temple holding member of the church. Right. Yeah. And I remember I going to the Institute, it was at night and I'm in the parking lot, dude. And I'm not joking you. I see 40 like top notch, beautiful, attractive girls. I'm like, holy cow, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. But they all kind of were dressed pretty scandalous for the Institute building. I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like not scandalous, but a lot of crop tops, a lot of shoulders showing, you know, things you don't expect in the Institute building. I remember I walk in the Institute building and none of them were in there. I'm like, what is going on? I found out later they had this thing that after 6 p.m. they allowed the sororities to park at the Institute. So they would all park there and then go into campus. So I was just laughing. I was like, but I thought I struck gold. I was like, wow, this is everything a man could ever dream of.
It's going to be easy to find a wife.
So did you go on a recruiting trip there?
Yeah, so I was there and I just had that decision, like, if you want to go on a mission, this is what I remember phrasing to myself, you cannot go here.
Mm-hmm.
And people would be like, oh, what do you mean? Just like, you know, just stick to your It's like, no, you stick to your standards by not going to certain places and doing certain things.
Yeah, you literally can't. It's like, well, Brandon Davies, go back to that situation, dude. I was at a party with Richard Wilson and Kyle Van Noy once with Brandon. Yeah. Bro, the 6 most attractive girls there were like gawking on him, trying to get. I mean, like when BYU fans would be mad at Brandon, I'm like, okay, dude, that's like belly hanging over his.
I mean, he's the different item here.
Oh, bro, and
the big.
Well, I mean, let's just call him. But it wasn't just that he was the black dude. He's like such a good looking, well put together, polite, like all the things that, like all of it, and. Dude, I would laugh at these fans that would come in at him because I'm like, dude, you've never even been close to that temptation. I'm sorry. Let's act like we wouldn't do the same thing. You all would. All of you, you know. Dude, speaking of Kyle, he told me about his recruiting trip to ASU once.
Oh, boy.
He was with Vontaze Burfict the same weekend. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
He's the dude that got suspended by the NFL for just being too crazy. And, dude, he told me about a party there that he went to. And I'll just if Kyle ever wants to tell the story, he can, because all your BYU fans would turn this podcast off. But Kyle was just like, bro, I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. It's just, you can't be in those places and expect not to have bad things happen.
And that was like a moment of a big growth for me. Like, if this is what you want, then you can't go here.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. And if it's not what you want, then
I'll put it this way. I was in college and hanging around Provo, Orem, BYU, UVU from 21 to 31. And then, dude, I was at ASU for 4 months and all of a sudden I lost my virginity at 31.
Dude, it's just, you got to know thyself, man.
It's like,
it's just a game changer. Yep. It's a game changer.
It is. Well, dude, I remember one day going to class and there was like hundreds of girls just wearing lingerie. I'm like, it was lingerie day at ASU.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that voice comes in your head. It'll tell you like, hey, if you want to do this, you have to make a decision before the decision.
And then you met your wife at BYU?
At BYU.
She was an athlete as well, right?
Yeah, she was really good. She's a better athlete in the family.
What did she play?
She ran track, 800 meters. She's 7-time All-American, took 3rd twice in nationals. She ran professional for Nike.
Dude.
So she made those Arizona State girls look not as good. So I made the right choice.
I love it. Are your kids Is it boys or girls?
I have a 2.5-year-old boy, Julian, and then an 8-month-old girl, Micah.
Awesome.
So,
but dude, he's gonna be a little athlete.
He's fast. So he runs around like crazy, man. So
I love it, man. Well, thank you for the time, dude. If people want to check out your coaching, go to your app. Where's the best place to send
Twitter.
them?
Just hit me up on Twitter. Send me a direct message, or just.
You're the first guest I've ever had say use Twitter as a direct message to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
You just love Twitter.
Love Twitter, man.
Isn't it fun?
That's where I rock. Twitter's my favorite by far.
The key to Twitter is you have to block words you don't want to see.
Yes.
And then it becomes this really cool.
That's what I'm saying. Like, to me, Twitter, like, I just see like health stuff, some sports stuff. Like, I don't see any crap.
Well, that's what people said to me. They're like,
so easy.
They're like, dude, does it distract you to be on Instagram all the time? And or is it bad for your health? I said, guys, I follow maybe 2,500 people. About half of them are muted, just being honest. It's not that I don't like them. It's just I don't want to see your kids playing whatever. You know? Yes. I don't care. Like,
exactly.
And then the other half are all people that inspire me or that I like to see what they're doing. And so it's like, no, it's actually like if I want to be motivated, I go to my Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same thing with Twitter.
Twitter, yeah. To me, it's just like I just, I've built something off Twitter. And I love it. So yeah, go there. And I'm looking for people that want to invest in their health. And like I say, like, improving your health, and I know you've seen this, you've seen it with people you work with, improving your health will improve every area of your life. Mm-hmm. It's an investment that will just go into every area of your life. So,
amen, dude. Well, thanks for your time, man.
Thanks, brother. Good talking to you.